So I would just note, on a legal note, the information that was done for this hearing was, number one, we published a notice that the location of the meeting was being changed to here at the church. We have a copy of the ordinance in front of you this evening. It was also, the hearing for the ordinance was advertised twice in the Mercury. A copy of that ordinance was provided to the Mercury in case anybody inquired there to see a copy. A copy has been made available on the township website and has also been available in the township building. The ordinance was sent to the Township Planning Commission, which recommended adoption. It was sent to the County Planning Commission, which also issued a letter recommending adoption. And an attested copy was sent to the law library, also for public inspection in case anybody wanted to review it. So at this point, we would ask if there was any public comment on this ordinance. We'll get to the second ordinance in a minute, but does anybody have any public comment on this particular ordinance? Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raise their hand. So we will close the public hearing on that ordinance.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this ordinance is what's in place now?
Yes, there is an ordinance in place right
And
now.
what you want to do is repeal it and put
Yes.
this new ordinance in?
Correct.
That changes the ordinance. So yes, why?
Okay, so
That's
the,
my question.
sure, so the best explanation, you'll hear more of this when we get to the second ordinance, but under the second ordinance, we are changing the zoning of some properties. That's the main reason all of you are here this evening.
Why?
We're gonna get to that, because that's a different ordinance. We need
But why
to,
repeal the ordinance?
Yeah, why are you repealing the first?
Yeah.
so
why?
we need to repeal that in order to be able to count any of the townhouse units that are in the underlying R60 in terms of our comprehensive plan, the county comprehensive plan, as well as the joint comprehensive plan that we're subject to for the Pocahontas region.
So you need to make R60 what?
We need to continue to allow townhouses in the R60 in order to comply with the comprehensive plans that are in place for the township, for the county, and for the Pocahontas regional authority that we have.
I still don't understand why we need to change it. According to what was sent from you, repealing it would make it so that we would have more R4, high density, and we have already plenty of it. So why do we need to change properties from, say, R60 or R80 to R4 when it's all in place now? Why do we need to change that just for a set of townhouses? Why not a variance so those townhouses can be changed? Why the rest of us? Why does everything else have to change?
Okay, for this ordinance by itself, okay, it has nothing,
But again, it has everything to do with the new one.
there's two,
Can you tell me, this is what I think is, I think we should explain what that map shows today, because most of these people don't understand the zoning. So explain what 24, where is 2024-02 on the map that you're talking about?
So 2024-02 did not change anything at all on that zoning map. It has nothing to do with changing the zoning classifications of anything. That zoning map stayed the same before 2024-02 was enacted, and it stayed the same after 2024-02 was enacted. It did not change the zoning districts.
But 2024-02 only affected certain?
It removed a use from that particular zoning district.
What I'm suggesting is point out where that zoning district is on the map,
So it's the
so that they
R60.
understand where we're talking about.
Right, so it's the R60.
okay.
So the actual person
On
here.
your map here, all the yellow marked R60, as in the ordinance, it allowed, I believe, because it allowed, O2,
O2
allowed, okay? The old ordinance allowed townhouses to be in there. An ordinance that was passed beginning of the year, I think it was, removed it from R60 that they couldn't be there. Okay? So now that ordinance does not coincide or agree with our comprehensive plan. So to be in alignment with the comprehensive plan, we're repealing that ordinance. We're going back the same way it was the beginning of the year, the way it's been since 2008, I believe. Okay? This ordinance is nothing new. It's not going to affect
But won't
anybody.
that affect Perkins and Crossing, because you're going to rezone
No.
that?
No,
But the width now will fit within that zoning?
no, it does not affect Perkins Crossing whatsoever. Okay? This is the ordinance that was in effect when all that was done.
But when you rezone the other property,
Let's discuss that when we come to that.
but it comes with this, if you rezone Perkins Crossing as part of your second part, you're trying to set the zoning for this so that Perkins Crossing qualifies towards your regional planning numbers.
You got it. That's it. This is being repealed because if we leave this in place, when we do this next ordinance for zoning,
Correct.
the numbers will not count for a fair share,
Correct.
and that means more development can come here. More townhouses can be built here. More apartments can be built here. Okay? That's the next ordinance we're getting to. But to do that, we need to repeal this ordinance that was passed at the beginning of the year. So that's all this
The
one's doing.
ordinance passed a year, you're trying to stop development.
It was
But
gonna
now
be-
you're changing it back so that you can use it for your own good.
I didn't hear you last
You're
word.
changing it back so you use it for your own good, because now it'll help you with the other one.
No, we're changing it back to use it for the township's good. Okay? It's not my good. It doesn't affect my house whatsoever. It doesn't affect anybody's houses, because these stuff are already built.
It helps you do the second piece.
What?
It helps you do the second ordinance. Yeah.
Yes, it does. But it helps the community. The second ordinance we'll discuss in what, 2 minutes here. Let me sit down. We can get into that. Okay.
I'm listening to our discussion and it makes sense to me. I think the confusion here is perhaps we should not repeal that one first until the other one gets cleared.
Makes sense.
I know
It's
it's saying
really-
chicken and egg.
It's just a game because it's happening at the same meeting,
Right.
so it doesn't really matter. If anything,
It feels sneaky that you're trying to do that first before telling us the second part, which is the bigger part though, right?
well, it's just so that when the second one goes into effect, the other one is already done. That's why one has to come in front of the other. It's not to do it as a sneaky way, it's to make sure that when the second one goes into effect, even though there's only gonna be a couple minutes in time,
But you
the
need to
other
give us
one
the
has.
whole picture before you can actually let us help decide that, right?
And if I could change the agenda, I would, but I can't, because that's the way it's written. So we have to do this ordinance first, and then we can do the second one, and everybody can ask their questions.
Didn't you change the agenda at the beginning?
No, we did for something else.
To change it, so can we make a motion now?
No, because that was a correction, because it was the wrong date that was specified.
It sounds like this was done incorrectly, and that we should stand to change that.
It wasn't done incorrectly, and there isn't a procedural problem. The first one actually needs to be adopted first, so that the other one, when it comes into effect, is fine. So if we wait until we get to the second one, we'll let everybody speak and address their concerns.
Thank you.
Okay. So, does anybody have any questions about this one before we move on?
Can you just do the discussion about the second one before you do any voting? And then vote the first one?
I just asked for that
That's
same
what-
question.
That's what I'm asking as well.
And
Right,
So just have
We
the
can-
discussion?
so we can. Let's just do it that way to make it easier. And then that way, if anybody, nobody else has any public comments on this one, then we'll start to talk about the second ordinance, so that way everybody can understand what's happening. That's a new hearing, right, so we'll end the public comment on the first ordinance, and we'll go to the second ordinance. So- Not yet, right. So the second ordinance is 2024-05, which is a zoning amendment to rezone certain parcels from R40 high density to R80 land preservation, from R80 land preservation to R40 high density, and from the R60 medium density district to the R80 land preservation. I'm just gonna give the legal, and then I'm gonna allow the supervisors to explain to you what it is that they're doing. I don't think you wanna hear from me. I think you wanna hear from them, what it is that's happening. So let me just indicate what we need to do from a legal perspective. We provided notice in the Mercury that the meeting location was changed to the church instead of across the way at the township building. The ordinance has been made available at the township building on the website. The ordinance was advertised on the hearing tonight twice in the Mercury. A copy of the ordinance was provided to the paper in case anyone inquired there and wanted to review it. It was sent to the Township Planning Commission, which recommended adoption of the ordinance. It was also sent to the County Planning Commission, which issued a letter recommending adoption of the ordinance. An attested copy was sent to the law library in Montgomery County. Notices were sent to all of the properties that were being rezoned. There were 500 and some properties. Everyone received a letter. And included with that is an affidavit of mailing from our office. We sent those letters out to whatever address was on file at the county tax office. That's how we got the addresses. There were also the properties that were going to be rezoned were posted. And our roadmaster signed an affidavit of posting and provided pictures of those postings. And the ordinance was also available on the township's website. Now, Bill, I'm going to let you explain to these good people the ordinance. They don't want to hear me.
So let me just say something. When I ran here, with both of these ones here, we talked about nothing but transparency. What you're seeing here is this is legal stuff that we have to do. I would love to have just jumped to this portion and told you exactly what it was, because it'll make so much sense to you. But this is nothing sneaky at all. I don't do nothing like that. When I came to your house, I told you exactly what I was going to do before I got here.
I just don't want a whole bunch of houses
To
in this
whole-
area. I don't want to build up more than we already are.
Sounds like
at
you did.
kids.
I totally agree with you. Don't you worry one bit. But just hear us out here, you'll understand what we're doing here. It should make complete sense. And if it doesn't, we'll go back over it until it does. Go ahead, Billy.
Okay? I'll come back up to them. Can you hear me without the mic?
Yes.
Okay. I'll mute then. Okay. What this zoning proposal entails, and the reason we're doing it, is after speaking with the county and after speaking with our regional planning commission and really reading our comprehensive plan. And I've been reading it since 1920, well, not 1920. Excuse me, since 2021 when I ran. I've really dove into the planning for the regional, or our comprehensive plan, and the update to it, to see what it says in there about the future of Upper Frederick. Okay? It's not, we just want to do this willy-nilly. We want to do it in compliance with what you all have said we want done. So none of this is being done underhand or anything else like that. We do have a letter from the county that came back to us after they reviewed the changes that we're proposing. They said they're 100% supportive of us. At the regional level, they said the same thing. Their comment was, quote, "What took you so long?" Okay, and our comprehensive plan, county finds that this change is in compliance with that plan. Okay, so now I can show you what we're going to do, what we're proposing to do. Keep in mind, okay, especially people in the crossings, okay, if your property is developed already, this does not change anything for you. Okay? You can't build another townhouse in the crossings. If you wanted to, you're maxed out. Okay? But the crossings zone are 80. You're not supposed to be there. Okay? So we're taking the crossings, this parcel here, removing it from R80, putting it in R60, where it belongs. It does not affect your taxes. It does not affect R40, I'm sorry. 80s, 40s. Okay, so it doesn't affect your taxes. It doesn't affect your property values. It doesn't do anything except put you where you belong. And we can't cram more units in there. So don't let that be a worry. They can't develop it anymore. Even for the R40, you're maxed out. Okay, the next development, or the next change we're going to have, if you see the red on the map is our commercial business. Here, here, and here, this is basically where Frederick Living is, one side, and down by Clover Lane. Those are zoned commercial business. They're staying commercial business, not changing. If we want to encourage any businesses to come into our township, or allow people to do farm stands or whatever on their properties in these areas, we want them to be able to do that. I want to see people be able to sell produce and whatnot that is raised in Upper Frederick or the surrounding areas. Those commercial areas stay, no change. R60 for Clover Lane will stay R60. Again, it's developed. Can't put nothing else in there. We're going to leave it alone. We don't have to worry about anybody building in there. This R60 and this R60 is being rezoned to R80, land preservation. The reason we're doing it is because this whole area here is not a residential development area according to our comprehensive plan. Future residential development in our township does not exist according to the residential plan or the comprehensive plan. So these R60s are gone. This R80, the R40s, again, are gone, becoming R80s. Down here, this little R80 that used to be R40 is going back.
Why?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I don't think I can actually say, really.
What do you mean?
Due to development. I mean, it's going to be R60. Is there anything you think you can build down there?
That's R40 you're going with your proposal.
Well, R40, right. Is there any development that you think
Why
will
would
take
you
place
do
down
that?
there?
Let's see, but we can let you finish and then we'll
Okay, okay. That's changing back to R40. Yeah. And the reason it's doing it is it goes towards what's called our fair share. Okay, with the other, I think it's 5 or 6 townships that are in the comprehensive plan, we all agree that by law, we gotta have a little bit of everything. But it doesn't have to be in our township, doesn't have to necessarily be down in Trapp or Lower Fred. Okay, we share that. So they're all building like crazy down there. And they want to. You go to the Regional Planning Commission, Rob will tell you, they want to do their buildings. We sit down there and go, it doesn't apply to us, a lot of this stuff. Okay? We want to stay the way we are, agricultural, rural.
Question, there's a new development on Little Road.
That's Lower Fred.
Yeah, is that, oh, that's lower.
That's
I'm
Lower
sorry.
Fred.
Okay.
There currently is no active development going on in our township, I don't believe. Everything you see down there is Lower Fred.
Okay, I didn't realize the process.
Okay? And you can see what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're building.
I think it's like 40.
And I think sewer comes right up to our border now. It's Lower Frederick, right to the border. I believe they run water and sewer. Okay, so we talked about this. We talked about Kirk Crossing and these developments here. That is what we're proposing. The reason we're doing it, like I said, is because our comprehensive plan says this is what everybody wants. If you remember back in 18, I think, when you went to the polls, you took a survey. What was the most important thing to you in our township? What was it?
What was it? Land preservation.
Land preservation. You don't want the building. You want our roads to stay in decent shape. Those are your top priorities. The main thing is land preservation. That's why we're doing this. Wait, listen. Does anybody not understand what the fair share is?
Go ahead and explain.
Okay? The fair share is if we were just a township by ourselves and we weren't in this comprehensive plan, the government is going to tell us we need so many acres commercial, so many acres residential, so many acres medium density, so many acres high density, and we have to do that in our township. Okay?
Every township has I explain this a little bit.
Okay.
This So our township is a member of the Central Perk Valley Regional Planning Commission, which is comprised of 5 townships. And we, being a member of that Central Perk Valley Regional Planning, we get to pool all of our zoning into 5 townships instead of just our township. So in the regional planning, all 5 townships have, I think it's 5, it could be 6. All of us have agreed that Upper Frederick maintains a rural portion, a greater rural portion of zoning than the other townships do. So when we talk about fair share, every township has, as Bill was saying, an amount of R40, R60, R80 that they have to maintain. But if you pool your resources with other townships, that percentage applies to all 5 townships pooled together. So if you think about us being teamed up with Schwenksville and Trapp, they are very built up. So they have over shared their high density development. That makes sense. So we get to maintain excess. If we were to leave the Central Perk Valley Regional Planning Commission, we would forego this ability to stay rural the way that we are. We would have to then take our fair share of every zoning map.
I just have to ask a question.
Yes.
So how did you end up over committing R40 by 400 plus acres?
What do you mean overcommitting it?
Right? Is that what we're doing here?
Oh, I see what you're
We're only supposed to have 452 and we got 800 something. So if you're following plans and everything, how did we get over allocated for R40?
That would be a question for
Past boards.
the past supervisors and whatnot. And the planning commission, as I told you, the planning commission said to us at the meeting, what took you so long?
Okay, but here's the question then, why are you turning R80 properties to R40 if you're trying to preserve them?
And I can answer part of that with the perk, what is that development?
Perk Crossing.
That I get.
Okay, so that for 30-some years has not been zoned right. You guys are talking about a comprehensive plan from a couple years ago.
No.
So, I'm just saying, you have that sitting there as R8, and you're gonna turn it to R40.
That makes sense.
It's already high density.
Yeah.
Makes total
Yes.
sense.
But
All right, we'll get to that little corner up there that you talked about.
But we can get to it now.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
I'm having a hard time seeing back there.
What's your name, bud?
Lieutenant Wolf?
Okay.
oh, you brought it back.
Yes. This is